Welcome to day 3 of my seasonal 7 series, where I post 7 videos in 7 days leading up to and themed around the winter solstice. So, it was really important. If you haven't, I posted the seasonal alignment video first, followed by the simple observances video. I explained things in both of those videos that would be very relevant in this video. So if you haven't watched those, I would advise you to do that first. But otherwise, let's get started.
Fire breath and open sky. It's not what we know, it's where we go. I grow wings and tell her goodbye. Oh, it's not what we see, it's what we choose to be.
Yule has long since been celebrated with fire, so it won't surprise any of you, but I will be burning shit today, as I tend to do during rituals. This is a perfect time to do so. I did it in last year's ritual. I do it all the time. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know I tend to set things on fire under new moons, so this is one of those. The winter solstice is essentially the new moon of the seasons, and so I plan to burn things. In yesterday's video, I talked a bit about creating a word for the year. And in the seasonal alignment video, I talked a bit about how if you want to manifest something in the spring, you start the process internally in the winter. So the winter solstice is when you set the intentions and you begin the alchemical process internally of beginning to sit with that energy. And then you plant those intentions in the spring. So what I would advise you to do is to sit down and decide on a word for the year, the whole year. One word. Examples that I have used in previous years have been elevate and authentic. I considered unapologetic for a while. I wouldn't advise you to choose words that are trying to manifest physical things. They should be more about internal processes. Forgiveness, compassion. These are the kinds of words I would recommend using, and they will set your intentions for the entire year. And I will tell you now that this is hands down the most powerful magic that I ever do. Every year I find it to be deeply transformative, and it alters the course of my life, honestly. So you're going to choose your word. You're going to then, if you would like, create a mantra from that word, and then you can create a sigil. If you don't know how to create a sigil, I did explain it in last year's winter solstice video, which I will link below. I will also tell you that video is fucking cringy. But if you want to watch it, it's in there. Otherwise, you can Google it. There's lots of information on making sigils. It's not, you can find that very easily. I'm not going to go over it today. But you don't have to make a sigil. It's optional. You don't have to do that, but you can. For my winter solstice ritual, I'm going to use fire to set the fire, to set the tone, to spark the intention, to begin the process. It will be empowered with seasonal herbs. Now, this is basically the same ritual I did last year, and I really hemmed and hawed over this a lot because I didn't want to make duplicate content. But this is what I do on the solstice. Like, I don't want to advise something that I don't think is ideal just for the sake of keeping my content fresh. I will do it hopefully better than I did it last year, but I really think that this is the best ritual to do. I believe that. Maybe next year I'll have a different one, but for now, this is what I stand by. You're going to create an intention. You're going to figure out what that is, sit down, journal out if you have to. You'll have a word, a mantra, and a sigil. That's the basic setup. So let's go into the actual steps of the ritual. Step 1 is, as always, to create your space. Build your altar. And as I always say, do whatever the fuck you want. There are no rules. It should be whatever inspires you, whatever feels good to you. This is an act of creative expression and freedom. I will put on the screen a list of seasonal correspondences. I would encourage you to use those things, but if winter to you feels like, I don't know, whatever, blueberries, then go for it. I don't give a shit. Like, do whatever feels good to you. You want to ideally encapsulate the feeling of winter, the solstice, the long night in your altar. The only real caveat that I would say, the only real requirement I would say, you're going to have fire. You need a candle. I would also advise you to have a bowl of water. We are going to set paper on fire, so you're probably going to want to have a bowl of water nearby. And then that comes with paper and pen. And then I'm going to put on the screen a list of seasonal herbs, any of these that you have, or any herbs that you feel correspond with your intention. Gather those and put them all together on your altar space. Once your space is set up, you got all your supplies, I would just sit for at least 5 minutes and look into the candle flame, the center candle, one of your candle flames, and just think about, focus your mind, still your mind, and think about your intention. Think about what it is you're going to put out for the following year. Once you feel ready, get your pen and your paper. You can either write your word or draw your sigil. You can write your mantra. You can do whichever one of those you want. You can do all three. This is up to you. Do what feels right to you. Rituals are also, to some extent, they're a bit of creative freedom. This is you. This is a personal ritual for you, for your transformation. So feel free to do what makes you feel most comfortable and most inspired. Then you're going to take your paper and you're going to put your herbs. I would do them one at a time and do them very consciously. You want to thank the herbs. Thank those spices for assisting you. Then you're going to fold your paper up with the herbs inside. A side note and a tip for you is not to use a full notebook page. Specifically because it's going to be really smoky. You're going to set this on fire. And a full notebook page is a lot of fire, especially with herbs inside. I would recommend, if you can go outside, to do the burning aspect outside. I know in the past I've had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me that they cannot burn things, either because they're in an apartment where they can't do it, they have no outdoor space, or they live with their parents and can't burn things. If you cannot burn them, an alternative that I've thought of is you can put it in your freezer, freeze it for the winter, and then plant it in the spring. Essentially, that's what you're doing. You're starting an intention now that you will take in and plant further in the spring. So you could put it in your freezer and then plant it in the spring. For those of you who can set fire to things, welcome. I'm going to set fire to things also. Normally, I would advise you to sit and do a feeling and visualization. Like, that's most of my rituals. I tell you to do that. Here's why I'm not going to advise that this time. I'm going to advise something different. What my experience has been with doing this for several years now is that this word comes to me, or I choose this word, by the end of the following year, my understanding of that word changes. The effects that word has on me and the ways in which it bleeds into my life, I can't really predict. And I don't think it's a good idea to try to control this particular intention. This is the kind of intention I think you should have a feeling of openness to. So I would spend a minute just feeling open, like trying to be open to what messages and lessons the universe has to teach you. And I will also let you know ahead of time, some of the lessons that have come to me from these words have been really harsh, but they've all been highly educational. So just be open to learning those things and understanding those things. Have a feeling of openness, and then also have a feeling of gratitude for the lessons and blessings that you receive pertaining to your intention. Once you've cultivated that feeling, once you have the feeling of gratitude and of openness, that's when you're ready to do the transformational act of actually setting it on fire. So I would use your candle. This is your sacred winter solstice candle. Use your candle to set your intention on fire, your paper, and then try not to burn yourself or anything else. This is what the bowl of water is for. Usually what I will do is I will try to let as much of the paper burn as I possibly can, but there comes a point when it starts to hurt. It's hot, and so you have to drop it in the bowl of water. I would also advise you to dump that bowl of water with whatever remnant ash is there out into the ground outside. The last step that I always advise for all rituals, but especially the winter solstice, is to sit down and actually journal out your ritual and your intentions. Put your sigil in the front of your journal, put your sigil wherever. Actually sit down and write it out. The act of writing is very powerful, so it's really good to do that after you've completed this ritual. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram if you post your ritual or your altar of any kind, and if you appreciated this video, it really means a ton to me and would make my fucking day if you could interact with it in any way. Shares, comments, likes, subscribes, these things matter, and I appreciate them greatly. Happy solstice, and I will see you in the next video.